In the middle of the night in Caracas, Venezuela, around 2 a.m. in the morning, numerous helicopters known as stealth stalkers entered the Venezuelan airspace. US Special Forces surrounded the residence of Nicolas Maduro. They infiltrated his residence and took capture of Maduro and his wife. They are then escorted onto the helicopters and flown quickly out of Venezuelan airspace.
The United States has carried out a series of strikes against Venezuela.
Daring raid that brought Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro and his wife to the U.S. in handcuffs for Operation Absolute Resolve or the Iwo Jima. He was wearing a gray Nike tracksuit.
Stood in federal court and pleaded not guilty to narco-terrorism charges.
The world wakes up the next day to these images. Yesterday, a leader to roughly 30 million people, now a detained fugitive, being transported to the US to stand trial. After his capture, Maduro and his wife were flown to a US military ship known as Iso Jiwa before being flown to the famous Guantanamo Bay and then boarding a plane headed towards the United States. And the destination? New York City.
Nicolas Maduro has landed in New York and is en route to New York City to face criminal charges.
He was escorted to the famous prison in Brooklyn, often referred to as Hell on Earth, and one that has held Diddy Combs and R. Kelly. In the US District Court for the Southern District of New York, Nicolas Maduro is now facing 4 primary federal charges, the main one being narco-terrorism conspiracy. Just hours before, he was seen engaging closely with Chinese government officials. Hours later, he was locked up in a Brooklyn prison. Now, this capture is so significant to the US. They legit flew into another sovereign state and captured their leader. We're here to talk about why the US did this. The data shows this action was a calculated preemptive strike to deny non-hemispheric competitors control of Western hemispheric strategic assets. In short, the new Monroe Doctrine is here, and the target is clear: China's growing foothold in America's backyard. The core conflict, countering China's foothold.
China is the largest importer of Venezuelan oil, and President Trump was saying that, the U.S. is going to be taking control of Venezuelan oil reserves. And this is what China had to say in reaction. We have this statement. China is deeply shocked by and strongly condemns the U.S. blatant use of force against a sovereign state and action against its president. Such homogenic acts of the U.S. seriously violate international law and Venezuela's sovereignty and threaten peace and security in Latin America and the Caribbean region.
Roughly 80% of Venezuela's remaining oil exports now flow to China. The oil is sold at roughly $10 to $15 per barrel discount through shadow fleets to avoid sanctions. The intervention was aimed to reclaiming stolen oil assets and denying non-Western powers control, citing historical precedents where attempts to price oil outside the US dollar, like in Iraq and Libya, preceded a regime collapse. This is the heart of the new conflict. Initial market shockwaves, gold versus oil. The market reaction immediately signaled 2 things: fear and a recognition of the broader economic implications. Gold jumped nearly 3% to $4,450 per ounce immediately after the intervention. Silver surged even higher. Crude oil was flat, holding steady around $60. The fact that gold rallied while oil was flat tells a story. Gold is the ultimate fear trade and de-dollarization asset. Oil, however, is simply not tight. Venezuela's production has collapsed from over 3 million barrels per day in the late 1990s to only about 1 million per day today. Even with the crisis, Venezuela accounts for less than 1% of global crude supply. Near-term supply tightness is unlikely, with EIA and IEA projecting 2026 global inventory builds of 2 to 3.7 million barrels per day. The Venezuelan move accelerates a structural decline the US has been fighting for years, the erosion of the petrodollar. The dollar's share of global foreign exchange reserves has declined from roughly 70% in 2000 to below 60% today. Currently, its share is 56.92%. Geopolitical instability is driving central banks to ditch the dollar for physical gold. Emerging market central banks accumulated over 600 tons of gold in Q1 to Q3 in 2025 alone. Crucially, cumulative gold reserves held by these institutions now exceed foreign-held US Treasury holdings. The US demonstrating willingness to weaponize financial systems and military force will only accelerate this trend. Non-Western aligned nations are diversifying reserves toward physical gold and cryptocurrencies, structurally weakening the dollar's global hegemony over the medium term. Gold's thesis has shifted from a conventional safe haven to a strategic de-dollarization asset. The geopolitical move highlights a major divergence in the commodities market: oil's glut versus metal scarcity. Crude oil is anchored for sustained low prices, falling to $55 per barrel in December. Precious and industrial metals are experiencing scarcity and structural demand. Silver surged to an extraordinary 140% in 2025, vaulting past its 1980 historical peak to $70 per ounce, and we all know what's happened since then. Copper hit $12,000 per tonne, and the silver market has seen 5 consecutive years of realised physical supply deficits. The metal's upside is driven by structural demand from AI, EVs, solar sectors, and critically, de-dollarization demand. The US intervention, while focused on oil politics, will only reinforce the case for these non-dollar pegged assets. What does this mean in 2026? The US action in Venezuela is less about an immediate oil shortage and more about containing China's influence and defending the structural mechanisms of dollar hegemony. Geopolitics are fragmenting as the US uses military force to deny foreign powers strategic access. The US dollar is structurally weakening as central banks strategically diversify reserves into gold, and oil will remain a disinflationary force with prices anchored lower by a persistent structural surplus of 2+ million barrels daily. Metals offer structural upside driven by scarcity and demand from energy transition and AI infrastructure. The rules of the game are changing. The world is moving away from a singular dollar-dominated structure, and the US is responding with the most dramatic tools in its arsenal. Keep watching this space.